Hello, Tony Buck here. There are 4 videos in my home energy reduction series. 1 is the basement, 2 is the first floor, 3 is the second floor, and 4 is the attic. This is the one about the basement. If you need more information, go to powerdowncitizen.com. That's powerdowncitizen, one word, .com. Let's take a look at the basement. So while we're at it, in this corner of the basement, this is where my electric box is, and you should know where that is in your house, so you can turn off the main one. The main shut-off is up here. Okay, and individual shut-offs are there. But the main reason we're here is this is my basement door to the outside. And because you can see light here, you know there's no soils, because quite often the ground level is way up here in a house. So your frost level is 3 feet down. That means it could freeze to 3 feet down in Pennsylvania, where I live. Now, in some parts of the country, there's no frost level. So we don't put foundations all the way down. But the frost can come all the way down, which means this part of the ground is still freezing in winter. That's coming into your basement. That's why you need to insulate the walls if you're going to use the basement regularly or heat it. Now, my ground starts here. Actually, there's steps, but generally it starts here. So my frost line is even further down, all the way down. Now what I'm thinking of doing is insulating my walls only, because I don't use the basement very much. And in winter, the ground below about 5 or 6 feet stays fairly constant around 45 to 50 degrees. Now it's based on the average temperature of the air in that part of the country for the year, what that temperature is going to be. But in Pennsylvania it's about 45 to 50, which means this floor is 45 to 50 degrees all winter. Now if these walls were insulated, that would hold back the cold, and this would just heat the basement a little bit to stop the pipes from freezing. Of course, I've got the insulation up here on the ceiling, which stops the cold from going or drawing the heat down from the house, because I don't want to heat this basement. I'm not using it. If you have a used basement, you might want to consider covering the floor with insulation as well if you have the height, because 50 degrees or 45 will draw 70 down into it. You'll lose heat into the ground. You won't get it back. Another thing's happening here. We want to get this door insulated. It needs to be sealed all the way around so that the draft's not blowing in the winter, because that's going to go through the basement, up the stairs, and create that chimney effect all through the house. Another thing I'm going to do here is insulate this door. I'm going to build it out 6 inches with a 2x6 here. And I'm going to put insulation all over here, and then I'm going to put some thin plywood on the door like that. Because that's also going to be a heat sink. It's going to just draw the heat out in winter. And in summer it gets hot. It's hot now actually because the sun's setting there. And the door is warm. So if that was insulated, that would save some heat coming in. So this is some of the things we need to do in the basement. This is the kind of insulation I put up on the ceiling of the basement, which is the floor of the living room. This one's called Easy Touch. You know why I like it? It's wrapped in plastic. The whole thing, look, is wrapped in plastic. Much easier to deal with. You don't get all that itching on your arms, at least I didn't. And it can push up nicely between these joists up here. This happens to be R19, which means it's a 2x6 wall thickness. That's what that is. R19. That's nice to have up here. Stop the heat coming down in winter and heating a basement that I don't use. So look for that. Most of the major manufacturers are supplying that kind of insulation now. Here it is in position, and I've put plastic over it and stapled that to the joists just to hold it up there so it doesn't fall down. And even if you have shut-offs up there, you can see them there, you can label them, and you can cut the plastic if you like, so that you can turn your shut-offs through the plastic, because the plastic's still going to hold the insulation up even if there's a few cuts in it. So that's the way to go with that. And that was 16-inch centers that I used there. There are 16-inch and 24-inch, so be sure you know what you've got in your basement. Now over here I've put some foam covers on the copper pipe, mainly the hot pipe, okay? And don't get the really expensive foam. There's some very cheap stuff around. Now over on the air ducts, I found some of this stuff, this kind of crinkly air foil stuff. Now that's expensive, but I got it from an auction. But you might be able to find some of that. In a minute I'll show you another method for insulating your ducts. Now, I had a long run metal duct to my kitchen and it never got warm in the kitchen. So I swapped out the metal duct for this insulated flexible pipe. Boy, do I get some heat in the kitchen now. So you might want to think about that in your basement. Here's another way to insulate your duct. You can put 1/2 inch or 1 inch styrofoam over the duct. You can just literally wrap it around the duct and use some foil tape. Now here again, I'm using that crinkly stuff, and that's real nice. It's flexible, it moves around a bit, but the styrofoam works very well. And don't forget to put a humidifier on your forced air system. It can actually lower the temperature a couple of degrees because it's humid, and it also stops those bad throats and coughs. Look, cracks in the basement. If they're really wide, use a styrofoam can and pump it full of styrofoam. Between pipes, around wires, didn't quite get that one. But you know what I mean, just squirt it in there. Use some little plastic gloves if you do that, because it always seems to get everywhere. There's my gas water heater. We'll come back to that in a moment. But over here we have 3 exhaust ports. They're chimneys going up out through the roof. Now my heater was connected to that, but I got a heat pump, so I didn't need the exhaust. You need to know about that exhaust pipe, and if you have a furnace, make sure there's a damper on the furnace so you're not just shoving air up that pipe all winter long, even when the furnace isn't on. So look for a damper. Down here we're checking the filter for the forced air system. Check it every 6 months. Here's my gas hot water heater. There's a control at the bottom of every water heater. You can set the temperature. Don't have too hot water coming out of the shower. And when you go on vacation, turn it back to 0 and save some energy. That's a good way to go. Now, if you live in a house where the hot water takes a long time to get to the shower or the kitchen, the reason it probably is that you have a gas water heater, an old style. The old style gas water heaters had to be near the exhaust ducts, you see, to go up the chimney, so the exhaust can go up the chimney. Now your kitchen could be on the other side of the house, so it has to run all the way down there. There's not much you can do about that until you replace the heater, but don't replace it if it's working. When you do replace it with a high efficiency, because they can put the exhaust out of the wall or a window, and that means they can move it closer to the kitchen or the bathroom, so ask them to do that. Just a point here on replacing more efficient units. Don't do it until the unit is worn out. Look on the website powerdown.citizen.com if you want to see my numbers on that. It costs you a lot of money and it takes a long time to get that money back, just in the efficiency that you increase. Now just finally, if I was to do only a couple of things in here, well, first of all, the basement needs wind infiltration. Get rid of all the wind using caulk, using styrofoam. But the main thing is wrap your ducts if you have ducts. If you have hot water radiators, wrap them with foamies, I call them. And if you have steam, wrap those with foam, okay? So the 2 heat sources, wrap everything with insulation, so the heat ends up upstairs and not heating the basement if you're not going to have fun in it, okay?